harassment laws changed this year, 6th of March, and the changes are that there is now a positive duty placed on companies, on employers, with regards to sexual harassment and bullying and harassment. Most businesses work reactively. They receive a complaint and they'll have a process in place to deal with that. How the laws have changed is we are now having to proactively prevent things from happening, and what they call that is a positive duty, and that's to create safe work environments. Safe used to mean not hurting yourself, breaking your leg, hurting your finger. We're now looking at psychological safety, and that's why the impacts of harassment, bullying, harassment, sexual harassment in the workplace, they connect directly with things like mental health, safety coming to work. If there is a business that's experiencing, where there are employees experiencing harassment, you get lower levels of productivity because people aren't feeling comfortable and safe being at work. It impacts, there's collateral damage, people seeing it and experiencing it that aren't the intended victim. That creates issues in the workplace. It doesn't have a great impact on your reputation either. You could have people off on workers' compensation as a result of a claim. So all of that has a negative impact on business. The second part to that is the Commission has been handed a high level of power to engage with businesses where these things are occurring. So the Commission can be directly engaged by an employee to investigate a claim of sexual harassment in the workplace, and as a result of that, if their findings see the company liable, they can be handed down penalties. So training and education is the most important piece. If you tell people what is right and wrong, and you can ensure that you've got the message across and they're well educated, it's less likely they're going to behave in an inappropriate manner. I think a lot of people think that a perpetrator and victim relationship is one-on-one, where there is a direct action or comment made, but I think it would surprise you to know that a bystander can be a victim of sexual harassment. So if two colleagues were in the kitchen and they were having a sexually explicit conversation that they both willingly entered into, that's fine. But if somebody was to enter that space in a common area and overhear it and be offended by it, they are a victim of sexual harassment. They shouldn't have to come to work and be exposed to any content of that nature. And I think that shocks a lot of people because they weren't a part of the direct conversation. But that was a risk those two individuals took, having a conversation in a common area and in the workplace. So it's things like that that I think people aren't aware of that would shock you. For businesses in particular, I think it's really important that they understand the law changes and the liabilities. So there is director liability and potential manager liability, so individual liability where these situations occur. I think a lot of people think that it's just a matter of, you know, a termination or an action inside an organisation, you know, to eradicate behaviour. However, if the Commission get involved, individuals can be liable, and the directors of organisations need to know that, because oftentimes the director may not be directly involved in the business and they think 4 runs down the line something happened down here, how could I have controlled that? But the reality is, if you aren't actively preventing those behaviours in your organisation, you can absolutely be found liable, and that comes with penalties. So that's number one. In order for that not to happen, we need to train and educate staff. We need to make sure that we are really clear in our purpose around prevention and having a positive duty for these behaviours. So if anything, we need to make sure that we have very clear policies and very clear explanations and training for all of our people. And I think my third takeaway is I personally don't believe this is as tight as it's going to get. I think that legislation is constantly evolving all the time, particularly around behaviours, safety, psychological safety. So it's important that businesses are on the front foot. These laws have been in place since March, so we're already in a reactive space. The Commission can already get involved in cases, so I think it's really important that businesses act very quickly to try and make sure that they are across, one, the changes, but two, the training and education for their people, because that is what is going to help mitigate any future risk. Our job is to be across any of those legislative changes, so we've interpreted these law changes and we've developed some training that we deliver at a leadership level within organisations to ensure that everybody understands the liability that occurs, but also the behavioural training for the whole organisation. We've developed that training and we have been rolling that out to organisations, and that is exactly how they are preventing issues occurring.